Lobbies and gentlegrams, due to the sensitivity of the issue at hand, I think it'd be in poor taste to start this video off with a bunch of rhymes and alliterations of my own, but instead, we will be rapping here, but we're gonna take a look at some Tory Lanez lyrics that he's been rapping behind bars. If you guys didn't know, Tory Lanez, of course the main issue at hand, which we will touch on, is that he was attacked and hit with a knife 14 times. He is currently in the hospital receiving treatment and recovering. We're gonna break it all down, who was allegedly at the root of it, but again, I wanted to bring you guys some of the lyrics that he's been rapping lately because, like I said, aside from this altercation behind the prison walls, Tory has actually taken a revolutionary step where he's shown the world that you can record full-length albums with studio quality using simply a jail phone. Now, granted, at first, he had what seemed to be actual studio equipment, possibly a microphone or a cell phone at the very least. It seems like that was confiscated from him and he had to resort to rapping over the jail phone. But nonetheless, that didn't stop him from putting out a full-length album where he details a lot of what's going on currently behind bars. He had a song with DDG where he rapped, "Sent me to prison and all that it taught me was if it go down, how to stab the crap out you. Tommies in bunkers, the knives, the thumpers, the lock in the socks just to crack the crap out you. I call a shot on the yard, you a problem, I send a hit out and cash out the crap out you. Standing on business is standing on business." Obviously emphasizing, and again, these are just rap lyrics, not to be taken as reality of what's really going on, but he's emphasizing he's learned some violent techniques within prison, specifically with how to use a knife, sending out cash apps to deal with people who are bothering him, I guess, behind bars. And on his album Peterson, he details this even further. "We was cutting metal off the bunks so we can stash stuff. Too much fishing in my conversation could get drastic. 500 on a Zell will make him do gymnastics. Hurt you when your partner tell on you and get your stash hit. It's wartime, I got it tucked all in the mattress. Seen that guy run out to the yard and he got backflipped. Crying in the cell so many nights that I felt trapped in. Richest guy in the prison, I ain't gotta diss you. I can dismiss you or make this stuff an issue." That's off the first track on this album alone. Also rapping, "And I'm on a lockup. Cops wanna knock us. They be out there watching from the towers with binoculars. Some of them will watch you get stabbed and won't stop it. They know who gonna run away and they know who gonna chop you." On the second song, he details more of his positioning within the prison, rapping, "Middle of the field is where the war's cracking. I'm a general in battle plus a war captain. High ranking with the blacks just because my face. So when it's on, I'm who they want. I will get you erased. Play with us and find out. I'm bigger than this prison. Case spit at your mom's house. Run inside your cell, lace fitted with knives out. I hang around a bunch of grave diggers and climb outs. Won't a guy in here touch me? That's on my chest. That ain't no tough guy stuff. That's my respect. Plus all the buses around me if you trying to step." There's a little interlude on this song where he says, "We're walking out the shower. The CEOs ain't come back yet." So the CEOs come back. You see everyone posted on the wall because guys know what's about to happen. So boom, one guy jumps out of his cell, starts whamming the guy. The guy stabbed the guy like 40 times. He's looking up. I'm looking back like it's over. So as you can see again, right? All these lyrics could simply be stories that Tory has concocted. But on the same album, he's talking about everything he's rapping about he's living. And it seems like recording music has been kind of a therapy or an outlet for Tory during his time behind these bars and maybe a way for him to get his thoughts out, right? But by the stories he's describing, you see a lot of repeated imagery of knives, violent altercations, stabbings, a lot of dark imagery on a project that's supposed to give us a glimpse into the reflecting and challenges he's facing while locked up. He's painting himself to be the one kind of calling the shots due to his net worth, right? Due to the money that he has, but simultaneously being surrounded by a lot of violence here. And this album was released a couple months back. And I had even said then, you know, for someone who's been fighting for his innocence for so long, to prove to the world that he is not the violent monster that this trial has painted him out to be. The lyrics on this album don't necessarily do the best job at painting the picture that Tory has really reflected and sat with the circumstances he's faced with and used them as a learning opportunity to stop being violent, to stop engaging in that type of lifestyle. And unfortunately, we see a couple months later, on May 12th, that a rep for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation confirms to TMZ Tory Lanez was attacked by another prisoner in a housing unit at California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that city name. Around 7:20 this morning, prison staff dashed to the scene and began administering first aid to Tory after calling 911. Tory was then rushed to a hospital off prison grounds to receive more treatment. The CDCR spokesperson did not disclose Tory's current condition. This isn't how Tory wants to get out of prison, but he is. After suffering a prison yard stabbing so bad, he needs hospital treatment, TMZ has learned. Tory was in the yard of California Correctional Institution at Tehachapi Monday morning when another inmate stabbed him. And this really reflects the lyrics in his music, as he was legit talking about a 6 a.m. wake up where right away the prisoners get on the yard and immediately violence occurs, right? And they already found out allegedly the guy who did this, and we're going to break down exactly what happened here. But just to touch on one insane thing, right? Tory has been locked up for what, about 2 years now at this point? How is this man still in general population? This is a high profile case involving obviously a woman, the victim, who is a high profile artist in and of herself. And then Tory, of course, is another high profile artist. Also, again, I'm not really familiar with how the law works, I guess because the crime was committed in California. So now he's in a California prison, but Tory Lanez is a Canadian. Should he not be shipped back to Canada to serve his sentence in Canada? Could be a stupid question, but what I don't think is a stupid question is, why is he in general population? We see Diddy, who I believe is in a New York prison. He's being housed in a protective custody unit. It's separate from the general population. It's for high profile or at-risk inmates, and he shares the unit with others who are in similar situations to basically guarantee their safety, right? So we saw 6ix9ine, who was briefly locked up. He actually allegedly shared a cell with Diddy. We saw Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of the crypto company that ended up being a scam. I believe it was FTX. He was also sharing a cell with Diddy. And this isn't just for individuals, who are high profile to get, nicer meals or more luxurious cells. This is really to ensure their safety, right? And we're seeing literally just by the lyrics that Tory Lanez is rapping that obviously he's literally, not figuratively, fighting for his life behind these prison walls. Like, all the violence he's talking about, the stuff that he witnesses, the stuff that he himself, the position he's putting himself in, where, he's cash apping to ensure his safety. He's sending people money. He's calling shots, cutting out metal pieces off his bed to use as weapons. This is serious stuff, but I could imagine this is what you have to go through, not only when you're a high profile individual, so a lot more eyeballs are on you, but even if you're just, some random inmate. Obviously, prison is a very dangerous place. It sounds like maybe he was acting a bit reckless, but it was probably, again, to ensure his safety. And we're seeing, again, he was rushed to the hospital at 7:20 a.m. At the crack of dawn, violence is already ensuing here. Now, as far as what actually went down, we have a couple different reports from people within the industry who may have connections to Tory's team, and they're revealing what they've heard from the story. So we have Poetik Flakko, who has said that he heard this actually didn't take place within the yard, but instead a common area within the prison.
Now, I was told this wasn't in the yard as people is reporting, and this wasn't in his cell. This was in a common area that this took place.
And Tory's team also gave a little update on what exactly went down with the situation. They posted on Instagram saying Tory was stabbed 14 times, including 7 wounds to his back, 4 to his torso, 2 to the back of his head, and 1 to the left side of his face. Both of his lungs collapsed and he was placed on a breathing apparatus. He is now breathing on his own. Despite being in pain, he is talking normally, in good spirits, and deeply thankful to God that he is pulling through. He also wants to thank everyone for their continued prayers and support. Now, again, before we break down the context of what went down here, exactly what we already know, just to break down how messed up these injuries are, 14 times he was hit with a weapon. 7 hits to his back, 4 to his torso, 2 to the back of his head. That could have definitely been fatal, and 1 to the left side of his face. And it got to the point where his lungs literally collapsed. He had to be placed on a breathing support system. I'm very curious to see how he's actually going to recover from this, right? Because obviously his lungs are an extremely important part of his body in terms of his career, right? You got to be able to have your lungs in good shape to be able to sing, breath control, stage presence, all that. I did a video on Tory Lanez kind of documenting his career, and I said when I saw him in concert way back in 2016, he was climbing the crowd, he was climbing the walls of the venue. Like, do you know how good of shape your lungs have to be in for you to be able to do stuff like that? Now, he definitely has a long time to recover. I mean, I think he's still facing about 5 to 7 years left in prison. Maybe he'll get out on like 3 with good behavior. But these are some insane injuries to recover from. So, it's really good to see that he's, now talking normally. He's breathing on his own. But this is some incredibly harsh stuff, man. And I hope that, this emphasizes a guy like this, high profile, should not be in general population. But at the same time, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because what are you going to do? Put him in solitary confinement? because then you'll just go insane, right? Like, it's proven that if you're in solitary confinement for a certain amount of time, you will definitely start going clinically insane. Plus, you have to think, if this somehow was his fault, which, again, I'm not saying it was, we have no proof that it was, but does he get in trouble with the judge, with the CEOs, if he was the person instigating this? Again, there's no proof that this is all just, me pondering on the fact that, like, what happens with a situation like this, right? Where do you go from here? Because it's obvious, I mean, just in his music alone, that he's not safe in the general population, in the facility that he's in right now. I mean, to be hit 14 times, like, this is obviously someone wanted this man gone, right? Like, this was obviously a calculated attack to end this man's life 14 times. Thank God he survived this. Now, as far as what this actually stemmed from, right? Why someone would hit him 14 times, obviously being an act or with the intention of severely, probably permanently harming this guy. Poetik Flakko had a little bit of insight into what really went down, what exactly incited this violence. And allegedly, according to him, it's based off how Tory has been moving throughout the prison, right?
This wasn't over no gambling debt. This wasn't over all the other nonsense we've heard. This was something really serious. This was intentional. This was something that was to send a message, because Tory Lanez have been adapting to the prison life a little too well.
So let's get into what we know from a couple different sources who are tapped in or connected to people within this actual prison. Because what does he mean by that? Tory has been adapting too well to being in prison. Well, again, obviously from the messaging within his music, because of his wealth, he's probably been able to use his money to at least get him some form of protection, right? But when other people see that, and when they don't have that, jealousy, especially, obviously behind prison walls, can obviously make you do some insane things. So Poetik Flakko goes on to say that an LAOG by the name of Spider Loc was able to connect with someone who's actually behind those prison walls, and claims that it was a group of Mexicans who were behind this attack. Now, again, this isn't coming from me, this is coming from Poetik Flakko. So let me play you the clip.
Let's hear from somebody directly at the prison who can confirm that the Mexicans were who stabbed Tory Lanez. This audio comes from Spider Loc on YouTube. Spider Loc is a LAOG who was able to tap in with somebody directly from their prison. He recorded the conversation. People I tapped in with ain't want to be recorded. So I'm going to play you guys Spider Loc's recording, and then I'm going to break down exactly what I heard.
What's Gucci?
What's cracking?
What it do, Fight?
Shit, nothing much to look, right? This morning, brother, the Mex came out and bust on the boy Tory. They airlifted him and all that. So that's gonna respond when we come off this shit. We're gonna respond the right way to that.
They laid the yard down?
No, it happened in the building.
And he goes on to explain that this wasn't just some fight that Tory Lanez was a part of and things went left. No, this was a calculated attack, an ambush that Tory Lanez was not expecting.
What happened was a sucker attack, an ambush, an attack from the back, not no man up stuff. And they don't view this as a one-off incident, as an isolated incident between Tory Lanez and a dude who don't like Tory Lanez. No, they see this as a strategic attack on the blacks. They see this as a race issue. And that dude just said, we about to tear this place up. It's going to be an absolute race riot. It's a war going on right now. That's because Tory Lanez is an asset.
And essentially, they go on to emphasize that Tory Lanez in this prison is an asset, right? Again, when you have that immense amount of wealth, you can move it around. You can pay people to A, protect you, B, handle your business for you, C, I guess, build up a certain community or a certain group within the prison, right? Having larger access to commissary and all that. I'm not the right one to explain this, but of course, with money comes power, and with power comes envy. And Poetik Flakko emphasizes that Tory Lanez has adapted to prison politics very well, right? I guess what he means by that is essentially he's aligned himself with a certain group. He has his people in the facility. They're protecting him, and he is obviously financially supporting them.
What was it over? It was over some. What he had? Did he have a debt, a gambling debt, or something?
Nah, nothing like that. We don't even really know. We don't even know the whole situation,
So it was just like some foul play. So it's finna be up.
Yeah, it's for sure with some foul play.
Damn, cuz. Wasn't nobody right there with him when it happened? Wasn't nobody right there with him when it went down?
Yeah, I guess nobody wasn't. He was by himself out there. He got a whole tier full of necks. He on a whole tier full of necks.
Wow.
Because you already know, once we get off this shit, we press some play on. We press play.
I'm already knowing. God damn. You don't know if he gonna be all right or not either, huh?
Nah, we don't know yet. He gonna be all right, though. He gonna pull through, though.
Peep the word in here, foul play. When we get up out of here, because right now the prison is shut down, is a lockdown currently going on, but after that lockdown is up. But peep the word in, foul play, foul play, foul play. The only thing that you consider foul play is when you attack damn near an innocent man, or when you attack somebody because of their race and not because they did something to you personally. Or you attack somebody strategically to take them out. Speaking in code right now because I want y'all to really follow along and get it, but I'm going to lay this all out perfectly. It's going to make sense by the end of this video.
So Flakko goes on to emphasize that, again, Tory is the cash cow in there, right? And with that, he's been using his money for a lot of good, to do a lot of good things, but also to do some underhanded things, right? And I'm not implying, again, that what he raps in his music is really how he's living behind those bars, but you can kind of get a little bit of an image of the type of actions, or at least intentions, that he wants to portray to the audience that he has through the music. It could all be fabricated stories, 100%, but there's a lot of repeated themes here. And this is Poetik Flakko coming from him, saying the money has been used for both good and for some underhanded actions. Those are the words that he uses. And he also says that one of the underhanded things that he did with his money came back to bite him with this attack.
One instance of Tory Lanez using his money for good is Christmas of last year. Tory Lanez made sure everybody commissary was filled to the brim. If you ain't have commissary, you had commissary that week because Tory Lanez looked out for everybody. Everybody was eating good that week off of Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez have been using his money to really help the facility, really help the inmates. Tory also currently has the Hand of God initiative where he's helping inmates who's facing life, or inmates with really long sentences who want to file an appeal, who need legal help filing an appeal. He's helping them file appeals to get back in front of a judge and hopefully get their cases overturned if they're completely innocent. So Tory Lanez is doing a lot of good, and he has really ingratiated himself with the people. People in jail, like specifically the black inmates, the Muslim inmates, they love Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez is like a king in there.
So I do want to highlight that for a second, right? Because we saw this when Tory was a free man as well. Always very supportive of new artists, right? Similar to here, how he's trying to help people who are facing life to get appeals faster, right? Maybe paying lawyer fees, or at least educating them on what they should be doing. He did the same thing when he was a free man. He went independent. He was really public on the moves he was making, the business moves, to essentially get out of his deal and structure his finances and his music career in a way where he's directly eating off of his masters. And a lot of what he was talking about, if you listen to that as an aspiring artist, it's very valuable advice. I mean, he would also show his whole recording process. He would record for hours and hours on Instagram Live. He was most definitely an open book and very generous with his knowledge and with the blessings that he's had, right? And you could see that in the way that he's making sure everyone's commissary was full on Christmas, helping inmates with their appeals, doing what he could to spread his wealth, again, for good. But along with the good, definitely comes some bad as well, at least according to the sources that Poetik Flakko has been speaking with.
Tory has also been using his money for nefarious activities in prison. He's been moving like a Don Dada. He's been moving like an absolute pharaoh in prison. Nobody can see or touch Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez is really moving like a kingpin in that bit, bruh. All right, he's dropping bags on people. All right, anybody got an issue with Tory Lanez, bro? You got 100 dudes to go through before you can get to Tory Lanez, bro. I was told personally by somebody, bro, Tory Lanez is terrorizing that jail. Not really terrorizing the blacks because they all run together, bro. But if you look at Tory Lanez the wrong way, you might get done up. Like, not by Tory, just by somebody who want to prove himself to Tory, bro. Like, that's how bad it is right now. And Tory Lanez hasn't been hiding the kingpin. Tory Lanez has been rapping about on multiple songs about how, he's the king of the yard, bruh. He putting bags on people if it comes to that. And I was told this ain't no rap cap. I was told this is really happening in real life behind the bars.
And yeah, we already reviewed a bunch of his lyrics, right? Like, you could see it within the music. He's using music as a therapeutic tool to kind of, let out all his thoughts, all his emotions, everything he's going through. There is a lot of good within it. He's spreading positive message, but at the same time, he's also emphasizing, that there might be some violent activities going on behind those bars. And again, the root of it is that you need protection when you're in a general population facility like that, right? Especially when you're a high profile individual, you'll use every resource you have, all your money, to make sure you are protected. And Poetik Flakko details, more information he's heard on how Tory Lanez has kind of been moving in there, and some examples of Tory maybe letting the money go to his head, or the power.
There's one incident in particular I was told about where a dude owed Tory Lanez a gambling debt. Here's the thing, bruh. When somebody owe you money, like in a real world, you can probably say, bro, I'll let it go. I don't care. But in prison, bro, you cannot show weakness, and just letting a gambling debt go like that is showing weakness. So I was told Tory Lanez apparently had money owed to him by this dude. Dude was slow to pay up. Tory Lanez had some dudes jump the dude and beat him up, right? Tory Lanez put the bag up. And I'm not even saying he put the bag up, like literally, because I'm sure these dudes would do anything for Tory Lanez behind bars, bro. But it feels like Tory Lanez got a crew of henchmen who is willing to do anything for Tory Lanez.
And all this is fine when you have the right people protecting you, right? But I'm guessing in prison, there's several different groups, right? So according to Poetik Flakko, Tory Lanez is rolling with a group of black people, right? And then Poetik Flakko says there's a group of Mexicans who maybe Tory is not aligned with, maybe he's not supporting them financially, and for whatever reason, he's gotten into his fair share of issues with them.
Now, I was told that Tory Lanez have had some cross-pathings with some Mexicans or Hispanics in there that ain't go well. And they're beginning to feel that Tory Lanez was having too much power in that jail, bruh. They was beginning to feel like, yo, Tory Lanez is bringing in cell phones, bringing in allegedly, bro. I don't know. Allegedly, bro. When you're a Mexican and you look at Tory Lanez and you think of it as like as a war going on, or let's say war is pending, and you look at Tory Lanez as a valuable asset because he's a multi-millionaire, he's able to bring in shanks, bring in resources, bring in certain things that's, you know, that the blacks can use. And when you're a Mexican, you sit back and you look at that as, hold on, bro. Tory Lanez and us done had a couple run-ins that ain't go well. He's putting some people's heads in this jail. He's causing a lot of trouble. He's building up a lot of resources for the blacks. Something gotta go. So some crash dummy. Yo, I was told, yo, the dude who's Tory Lanez, yo, him and Tory Lanez ain't even really have no issues like that, to be honest. This was a targeted hit. This was strategic. 14 times? They're coming to kill you, bro. I was told this was strategic. This was to take out a valuable resources for the blacks in jail. Tory Lanez was just somebody who they thought was, yo, if you take out Tory Lanez, that takes away a lot of the resources the blacks currently have.
So it sounds like it's almost this war, right? Where one side feels like, all right, if we take out the golden goose, the one who has all the valuable assets within this other group, then that group will not be as powerful. And because of that, this wasn't someone who directly had an issue with Tory Lanez, but when you're in a general population facility like that, again, and you're a high-profile individual who's using their money very freely to support a certain group, other groups are going to look at you funny. I'm in zero position to offer any advice for anyone facing incarceration, but I think it's kind of common knowledge to state that you should be moving with a low profile when you're a high profile individual in a general population facility. Now, Akademiks had also spoken to Tory's team, and he said, after speaking with Tory's team, Akademiks can exclusively confirm Tory was in critical condition when he was airlifted to the hospital. Yes, he was taken out with a helicopter from the prison to a hospital. Initial reports were put out by a source from the prison to downplay the fact that Tory's injuries were life-threatening, and essentially it's a miracle that he survived this attack. He was stabbed again 14 times, 7 to the back, 4 to the torso, 2 times to the head, and 1 time to the left cheek. And we now find out that this was the individual who attacked Tory Lanez. This attacker is allegedly serving life on an unaliving charge, and this wasn't his first violent incident while behind bars. So the man's name is Santino Casio, and he was placed in restricting housing pending his investigation. TMZ was also told that Casio was sentenced to life, again with the possibility of parole for second-degree unaliving, first-degree attempted unaliving, personal use of a dangerous or deadly weapon, and inflicting great bodily injury. While incarcerated, they also say that Casio was sentenced to 6 years for assaulting a prisoner with a deadly weapon or force likely to cause great bodily injury. And he was also sentenced to 2 years for possession/manufacture of a deadly weapon by a prisoner. So at this point, this is the update we have now. As of right now, I believe Tory Lanez is still in the hospital recovering from these injuries. Again, thankfully, he's able to speak. He's off that breathing apparatus. But this is just insane. And hopefully, if he does return to prison, which I believe he has to, right? If he's serving this sentence, he's at least in some sort of protective custody. So I'll keep you guys posted if we hear more news on his recovery. Pray for Tory, man. Whether or not, he committed the crime that he's now convicted of, no one deserves to be suffering an injury like this. And I mean, to me, as a fan of Tory for years and years, this is very, very sad to see. Also, him being a father to, I believe, at least one child, him having a son. I pray that, he can come out and be able to raise his son and obviously learn from these mistakes before it's too late. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I will catch you in the next one.